once again, courting has 7 parts in it. First of all, conscious courting is one of the Super 7 soulmate skills that we teach at the Acoma House Initiative Culturally Based Counseling Consultant Firm. If you're a single person and if you are married, you're going to have to understand what conscious courting is and why it's useful to your relationship. So I'm going to go over 3 points. 2 will be to single people and 1 will be to married people. But I want to say that conscious courting is one of the 7 skills that you have to master if you're going to have a thriving love relationship, an intimate love relationship, right? So within conscious courting, there are 7 parts. First is finding a court, that group of people that's going to help you through the process. Second is pursue/position. If you're a man, you're going to be in pursuit of what you're looking for. If you're a woman, you're going to position yourself to receive what you're looking for. So that is number 2. Number 3 is to align beliefs. Number 4 is to align values. Belief is what we think deeply in our heart and mind about relationships, and values is what we operate in daily in a relationship. Very important to align those. Number 5, you're going to have to learn how to vet. You're going to have to learn how to sift through what you're experiencing to understand if the person that you're courting with as a single person is ideal for you. Married people, vetting has a different connotation, and I'll explain it in a minute, right? And then 6, you gotta move into the process of commitment and understand how to do that in a way that serves you and the overall goal. And finally, 7, you gotta build community that will support the conscious courting, right? So now we got those 7 things. So here's 3 things I want to tell you. Number 1, you have to begin with the end in mind. To the brothers and the sisters, when you're courting, you cannot just court for no reason. If you court for no reason, a reason to end the relationship will always come up. So, for example, I have a dear friend that I was talking to recently, checking in with him after about 5 or 6 months of not talking to him. And I knew that about 3 or 4 months before we started, which would be about a total of 8 or 9 months, he started a new relationship with this woman that he was very excited about. So when I checked in, naturally I checked on him, his children, his health, work, what's going on in his life. And then we started talking about the sister that he's kicking it with. So I said, yo, what's up with the sister? How's things going? When are we going to meet her? When, how are we going, are you going to get together with us so we could check her out and share some love with her, what have you? And he was like, oh, we kind of like distance now. So I'm like, okay, it's been 9 months. Why are you distanced now when you were actually, just getting started a couple of months back? And so he explained that some stuff came up in the life of her children. She has some adult children, a son and a daughter, and 2 various things happened in their life that will always happen. When we have children, children never stop being our children. They are oftentimes not children, but they are our sons and daughters. And so despite age, they need parenting. Whether it's 25, 45, 60, a parent has life experience and wisdom, if they are alive, that they can share with their child. And they're always there as a corrective idea or a nurturing ear to lean on when they're in challenges. So I said, wow, well, so she was going through challenges with her children, and so she kind of pulled away from the relationship. And I said, wow, that's kind of, I understand it and respect to her, salute to her, but let me explain this to you. If you begin with the highest level of commitment in mind, you will always be able to overcome the things that happen in relationships. If you don't begin with that, the things that happen in relationships will always overcome what you have. So in other words, if you're looking for the highest level, which is marriage or being in a committed, mated relationship, the things that happen in life, the 2 of you will be able to combine resources, energy, finances, etc., to deal with them. But if you don't have the ultimate life commitment, then the reverse will happen. Something will eventually happen, whether it's the car breaking down, the loss of a job, someone's health gets compromised, or some other thing happens that actually challenges and then it terminates the relationship. It will always happen. But the reason that always happens is because the highest level commitment has to come first in order to deal with everything. If you make the highest level commitment first, you will be able to stand and bear anything that life has to offer, including death. But if you aren't doing that, there is something coming that is big enough that will challenge you in a way that the relationship won't be able to withstand. So the question then becomes, are we courting for a 9-month relationship? Are we courting for a 6-month relationship? Are we courting for things to come up that will always disconnect us from our ultimate goal? If you talk to most people at the beginning, they don't say stuff like that. They say stuff like, we courting to see where this goes. I'm interested to see where this goes. I'm excited. Now I want to see where it goes. Well, hell, it's going to always go where you take it. You have to know where it's going to go before you start. It doesn't mean it will always go the way you want it to go, but for certainty, a relationship that is being guided to a preconceived destination where will arrive there 90% more than it won't. And so that's what you have to understand. So that's the first thing. Now, the second thing I want to say is that was kind of to the brothers, but the second thing is kind of to the sisters. In order to court a man, especially when we get to step 5 of vetting, you have to vet this man in his life. What does that mean? That means in order for you to vet the brother, you got to have access. You got to have intimate access to his life. And this is why dating doesn't suffice for building an intimate relationship. Dating is just social activity that we do. And for most people, especially during the quote unquote courting phase, they're dating by taking a person out of their life instead of you going into their life, right? So when we go out to dinner or we go to a movie or a concert or a show or whatever, that is you and a person meeting up somewhere. Usually if it's the man, he's coming to pick you up at the best, but at the least he's meeting you somewhere. And when you meet somewhere, you're not in your life and he's not in his life. And so it's very difficult to vet somebody off of activity. Now, most of the times, and I would imagine and hope that if you are dating a person, you are sexually attracted to them, because dating in modern day culture is the socially acceptable way to say you want to have sex with somebody. Sisters, we are not just sharing an interest in museums or, you know, a particular artist or whatever. I'm not saying that that's not sincere, but the reason a person is spending time with you, because dating is a socially acceptable way to say, hey, I find you sexually attractive and I can see myself having sex with you. And so if you are not sexually attracted with someone, you should not be going out on a date with them. Now, that doesn't mean because you go out on a date, you've agreed to have sex with them. But what it means is that you're open to the possibility of that if things go according to your courting schedule, right? So it's very difficult to see somebody outside, you know, if you're not seeing them inside their life. Case in point with another recent client who is pregnant, expecting a child in a few weeks. And somewhere in the middle of her pregnancy, she found out that the man that she's dealing with and pregnant by is actually living with another woman. And that's a hard piece. You know, that's a hurt piece right there. You know, when you have a situation like that, it's very difficult. Yes, it can be overcome, but it's very difficult. However, a part of the responsibility on understanding how to court lies squarely on the woman as it does on the man. Now, we asked her, So when y'all were coming together, when y'all were having sex, when you were spending quality time, where were you doing that at? She said, at my house. And she said, we would meet at my house, we would meet at hotels, we would meet at places where we would come together and spend quality time. So I'm like, okay, cool. Why didn't you ever go to his house? Why weren't you around his family and friends? Why weren't you in his life to see that the person that he's telling you he actually is that person? Why didn't you do that? And she was like, I thought about it toward the end, but everything was clicking and we had so much in common that I just didn't do it. And we weren't saying that to say, oh, it's your fault or to blame you, but we were saying it to her to help her understand why courting is important when you're building long-term relationship, but it is essentially important when you're talking about having children. Now a child is coming into this family, and there's a dynamic now where the young brother has children with another woman whom he lives with, and now he's having essentially a side baby, quote unquote. And all children come with divine purpose, despite the context of the way they were created from an African paradigm. But nonetheless, this is not the ideal situation, as most of us would agree, right? So this is the situation. This is why it's important to begin with the end in mind, number one thought, and then number two thought is to court with a person and vet a person within the context of their life. When you see these two stories that I'm giving you of a dear friend of mine, he's not a client, he's actually a very dear friend and just somebody that I love dearly. But the client, someone who we're being paid to serve, we work for our clients. So when they hire us, we work for them to produce the results that they're looking for, right? And so she's hiring us to help her with her courting dynamic, but it's all turned inside out and upside down because you're not vetting a person in their life. You're going out on dates. And let me tell you, black people, you could do that stuff for 6-7 months and not know the basic stuff about a person. Because what do? We went to dinner 100 times. We went to a show. We went to a cookout. We went to a concert. We went to this. We went to that. But you're not able to see them in their life. And that is the way that you can vet that A, they are who they say they are, and B, that they want what they're saying they want from you. Because ultimately, whether you call it courting, dating, whatever you call it, it has three end objectives. Number one, somebody is looking for a mate. Number two, they want friends with benefits. Or number three, they want a sex conquest. That's all there is. So if somebody is dating you, know for a surety they are putting you in one of those three categories. Women or men, it doesn't matter. It goes both ways, although the men properly pursue and the women position. So you should not be spending quality time with a person if you want to be in one of these categories and they're not showing you what is reflective of the category you've chosen. And you should discuss it right from the beginning. You should begin with the end in mind, not when you're about to deliver a baby or when you're on the fourth time having sex. You're now saying, so, staring at the ceiling. So where do you think this is going? Because I could tell you for a surety, if you're in that situation, it's going where it's at right now. And that's all it's ever going to go, to me and you having sex until something in life comes up to interrupt it. So we have to understand these two thoughts. Number one, you must begin at the end with the end in mind. And if you're serious about taking it to the highest level, that's what you should begin with, because that is the only thing that will supersede all of the challenges that life will present. So in the case of my dear friend, he's courting, he's a mature man, you know what I mean? He's courting with a sister that he's really feeling, but because they have no real end in mind and they're just seeing where it goes, You hang around long enough, life be lifing. Something will happen that will challenge that relationship and then destroy it, because the relationship is not a permanent fixture in the person's mind. It doesn't have the ultimate, the highest level of commitment. So any challenge can interrupt it. A car breaking down, a job, a loss of a parent, trouble with a child, a health concern, whatever, and now the relationship's over. Because it's not a lifetime commitment. It's not the highest level of mating and marriage, right? And so if you're in that pool, then you're only being in a relationship waiting for it to end. And that's absurd, because why are you wasting time that way when you could actually be building the kind of relationship you want? And see, the problem here with that is we playing with ourselves. We're not even playing with each other. We're playing with ourselves because we're acting on the highest level of commitment without being in the highest level of commitment. And whenever you do that, it's what the elders call playing house. Whether you live together or not, you're playing mommy and daddy, husband and wife, but you don't really have those intentions. And without that, you're going to always hurt yourself before you hurt somebody else. But when you hurt yourself, you can make exceptions and excuses for that. When you hurt somebody else, they're going to let you know about it, and they're going to bless you out, and they're going to tell you all the crazy stuff that, you know, you get, that you hear. So number one, you got to begin with the end in mind. Now, let me say this. If you are just looking for a sexual conquest, if you are looking for friends with benefits, and you are not looking for the ultimate level of marriage and mating, I can accept that. I would caution you against it because it's life draining. It's financially draining. It's energetically draining. It's spiritually draining. However, if that's your choice and the person that you're dealing with is open and receptive to that, then this is what we call free will. Do what you will, right? But understand that every decision that we make is a cause set in motion. Every cause puts us on a path. Every path takes us on a journey, and every journey has an ultimate destination. So if you choose those other two, which is sexual conquest and friends with benefits, it does end somewhere. And trust me, as the old saying goes, you're going to be older way longer than you're going to be younger. And so if you waste setting up your long-term happiness for instant gratification or temporal gratification, then so be it. That's what free will is. And we all have to play a part in this social drama called life, right? Some of us gotta be a fool. So you gotta do what you gotta do, right? So I'm not even here to tell you what to do. Ideally, mating and marrying on the highest level is the ultimate aspiration and reward. And it is our cultural nature to do that. Prior to our fall, we wasn't dating people to see where it goes. You couldn't even get access to a woman, men, by not having to go through her father and other men, her brothers and men in her community that loved her. So you would never be just trying somebody out. You know, in our culture, in our original culture, in our natural mandate, we don't do that, right? We don't try out human beings. We get actual mission and purpose that we're on, and we know the vision of what that's going to look like, and then we go out to pursue and position ourselves to find someone who is in alignment with that. But right now what we doing is batshit crazy, right? And so we doing all kind of stuff that ultimately hurts us and bring angry, confused, bitter, and neglected children in the world, who then become socially alienated and then become a problem for all of us. So number one, begin with the end in mind. Number two, you cannot vet a person on dates at the movies. You cannot vet a person with some silly ass list of questions that somebody gave you that you could ask them to see if it's real. That's not how you vet a person. First of all, you're already biased because you are, I'm assuming, sexually attracted to them. And we live in a time where everybody is so lonely that you will fantasize. Now, this is especially to the sisters on the second part. The first part was to the brothers, But with the sisters, y'all default setting is delusion fairy taleism. And so when you have a default setting of that, you want this man so bad to fit into your fairy tale, all he has to do is say, yeah, I'm not, I'm looking for Prince Charming. I'm Prince Charming. In fact, my middle name is Charming. And then, boom, there you go. He is Prince Charming. I told you, and so this is why we need step number 1, a court in the 7 steps of conscious courting. We need support from people who are not biased and people who are not just yes people who love you like your aunt, Donna or Dolores or whoever it is, Aunt Glenda, are telling you whatever you want to hear. You need people who have impartiality and really understand what makes successful relationships go, because they're going to help the man and help the woman. They're not going to turn them against each other like a lot of silly relatives and other people do. And shout out to my 3 aunts that I named there, Aunt Dolores, Aunt Donna, and Aunt Glenda, who I love very much. So I'm just telling you that you need these 2 things. 1, you got to begin with the end in mind. 2, you got to court in context. 3, so number 1 was for the men. Begin with the end in mind, bro. Know what you're doing and tell her that right up front. Whatever it is that you want out of those 3 things, a mate or marriage, number 1, a friends with sexual benefits, number 2, or just a sexual conquest, number 3. There are millions of black women out there who fit in all 3 of those categories. So let them know what you really want up front and let them make an informed decision to align with your goals if that's their goals. Okay? But don't do no see where this is going to go, because a lot of men's hearts are opening up now and you're going to get your heart broken, bro. Number 2, for the sisters, you cannot court a man outside of his life. Please don't end up like our dear beloved sister who we're working with, and we're committed to helping her through this journey, where you're pregnant by a man. You're about to deliver a baby by a man who you didn't know lives with another woman and is committed to her. But that is happening because you're not courting and vetting in his life. He gets to step out of his life, spin you around in a fantasy, and you can't even vet if this is actually who this person is. And I'm saying, you have sex with a person several times and you've never been to their house? That's deep, but that's typical in today's world. And this is part of the reason why we're in the position that we're in. So now my 3rd comment, we got those 2. My 3rd comment is to married people. We need to court too. What does courting mean for married people? Obviously, we're not looking for partners. We're already committed. But who we're looking for is alike couples that can stretch us, that can that can challenge us in a friendly way, that can offer distinction and perspective by mated and married couples spending time with other mated and married couples who are diverse and similar in their dispensation of their personality. Simply put, they alikes that flow like you flow, and you can grow and be enriched by your time with them. Without this, married and mated couples die in the mundane happenings of their personality. He don't want to do stuff she want to do. She don't want to do stuff he want to do. She hangs out with her friends, whether they're married or not, without the presence of their husbands. He hangs out with his friends, whether they're married or not, without the presence of their wives. And the great divide is being seeded. And over time, it's the typical, why y'all breaking up? We've grown apart. We're not intentionally growing together. And this is actually what dating is for married and mated couples to actually consciously plan activities alone and or with others, whether in the house and or out of the house, to make sure that personalities, styles, and other and energies are harmonized, and that we respect the perpetual balance of life cycle in the art and science of Black love culture. So Committed couples it is vitally important that we get courts. 3 or 4 couples on his side, 3 or 4 couples on her side, and if you touch both of them twice a year, if you touch all of them twice a year, that means damn near every other month or every month you're doing something in small or large groups or 2-on-2s where you're able to get perspective and distinction. Oh, this is how y'all do that. This is how we do this. This is what you're investing in. These are the stocks we like. These are the companies that we're investing in. These are the companies we're divesting from. This is the information we're giving our children. What are you giving your children? This is what we're doing and planning for retirement. What are you doing? This is how we're repatriating. What are you doing? This is how we're growing physically in our health and our wellness. What are y'all doing? This is what we eating. What y'all eating? This is what we believe. This is what we're reading, etc., etc., etc. Without the advent of other couples rot and die away in their negative habits. And all habits become negative if they are also decontextualized out of community. And this is why step 7 in the 7 skills of conscious courting. So we have 7 main skills, which conscious courting is the second one, but within every major skill, there are micro skills. And it just so happens with the conscious courting skill, there are 7 skills within it. So conscious courting, is one of the super 7 soulmate skills, but then within it, we have step 1, finding a court. Step 2, positioning or pursuing and positioning. Step 3, aligning beliefs. Step 4, aligning values. Step 5, vetting. Step 6, the process of commitment. And then step 7, building supportive community. So if you are going to court, and you should be, whether you are mated or married, and specifically if you're single, number 1, you got to begin with the end in mind, brothers. You got to know which of these 3 categories this sister is in, and you got to tell her what you intend, because you know from the moment you approach her. She may not know right away, but you know. So you have a responsibility and a moral, ethical charge to let her know from the start. Let her make informed consent, right? Sisters, number 2, you got to be able to vet a person in their life. A person could take you out 100 times. Listen to the term. Let me take you out. Out of what? Out of your life, which means I'm stepping out of my life. And so it's impossible for you to vet a man like that. You have no context. You're not seeing him interact with children. You're not seeing him interact with his dear friends. You're not seeing him interact with his family. You're not seeing his daily operative life. You don't see how he works. You don't see how he is with people that he fears, people that he doesn't fear, people that he's allies with, people that he may be at war with. You don't see any of that. So you can't even see how he is with nature. He might be littering and throwing stuff all around, and if you find dudes like that, he's usually nasty. You're not able to see the details of his hygiene and stuff like that. We always make the joke of, if you're courting and a man say he's going to take care of you, tell him to take his shoes and socks off right now so you can see his feet. Because if he ain't taking care of his own feet, he's not going to be able to take care of you. Because it's details in that, and it requires a certain level of consistency in maintenance, and a certain level of understanding how to clean and de-germ and defungi the feet, because we wear shoes and socks, which is actually a little bit unnatural for toes, right? So these are just some concepts, but so that was the men, the single men, the single women. But for the mated couples, you got to find community. You got to find alike couples that you can connect with once or twice a year. That's all it is. And if you got 3 or 4 of them on both sides, let's say it's 3 on his side and 3 on her side, well, this is 6 times a year. You're going to connect. And if you really get on with these people, you probably will connect with them 2 or 3 times a year. Now your calendar is really full. and you're constantly being imbued with the value system that will keep you moving toward the ultimate goal, which is the pinnacle of life and love, into ascension from the material realm back into the spiritual realm. So this is a snapshot, part 2 of conscious courting. I'm coming back with part 3, just a message to the men. And that message is this: you got to go first. And we'll talk about that shortly. But until then, as always, greeting you in peace. And I'm saying to you, if you want help with the 7 steps of conscious courting, if you are confused about this, or you are ineffective at this, and you're a black in leadership in some kind of way, but you're having a challenge with this, then get with us. Click the link that you see around here, book a consultation, so we can explain to you how we can help you with this very, 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 very critical skill in the art and science of Black love culture. So as always, I'm your brother in Black love, MONTSHO we do. Until next time, on behalf of Nawasha, shout out to Nawasha on location at a Black Women's Relationship Conference. The women are having conferences all over the place, black men. Nawasha is remote right now, and she's presenting at a conference. Willfully, you get a chance to see this, Nawasha. I know you're killing it out there, but I want you to be safe and, represent as you do, always. Until next time, greeting y'all in peace, in the infinite words of Black love culture, and saying, Nia Akoma.